I'm all right. Thanks for asking. There's definitely some noteworthy bruising in this area, and for some reason, this area. But nothing a little bit of time and ignoring of pain can't handle. The act itself of crashing is really not that bad, but the loss of productivity and the loss of time afterwards, allowing whatever it is you hurt to come back to a level of usability, is the part that's really annoying. Hence the inexcusable state of the Spindash shed as it currently sits. Though there was plenty of time to sit inside and edit the last two videos that I made about mountain biking that are easily 100% my favorite videos that I've ever posted. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. There is two things to talk about when it comes to crashing my mountain bike. Number one being, I'm really glad that I had this bad boy on. And two, being the cause of the crash, I jumped a double to flat. I was going too fast, jumped it, was getting ready for a landing. Definitely would have been fine if I wasn't going too fast and jumped it to flat. Anyway, being mildly out of commission gives me a fantastic opportunity to actually get started on something I didn't think that I was going to start this soon with the 650B swap, felt compulsion, along with tidying up completely in here. Now, one positive to the injury that I currently have that makes it just a little bit too unbearable and uncomfortable to go ride mountain bikes, but I can still do other things and perform a little bit of labor in here, is that it completely eliminates all of the panic, knee-jerk reaction things that I did to this to get it ready to go ride. Which means two things. I get to play around with stuff that I've not really played around with before, such as most mountain bike things, notably rear suspension. It is not something that I'm wildly comfortable working on, but because it's my own stuff, I don't care if it breaks or not. And it's old, so it doesn't matter. I've also got the entire bushing kit for this Equilink suspension. I also have the dropper post for this bike that we are not going to do anything with yet because, number two, I want to take this thing apart and finally experience what it's like to work with Spray.bike. So, first things first, I just want to make a comparison between this shock and one that is here to possibly replace it. So, here we have a 2013 era RockShox Monarch R rear shock. And here we have a similar era Fox Float RP23 rear shock. This being the sad, sorry excuse of a rear suspension shock that we pulled off of the bike. And this, which Colin just happened to have, the measurements for stroke for each of the eyelet areas and everything else that kind of matters come out to be pretty much exactly the same, save for the eye to eye measurement. Our RockShox example comes out at the quoted 200 millimeter length with 57 millimeters of stroke, and our Fox Float comes in at just below 190 mils eye to eye with a measured 57 millimeters of stroke. So our RockShox that we just pulled off is closer to 12 millimeters longer than what the Fox Float that we're going to put on is. That difference, the difference in these shock lengths, that pretty much brings us back to the stock bottom bracket height that this thing had. because the change from the 26-inch tires to the 27.5 gives you about 3/4 of an inch, which comes out to be about 19 millimeters. We take about 12 back on this. We're looking at about 6 millimeters, and while I'm not sure that I'm going to do it necessarily yet, we can get some offset bushings, as you've all mentioned in the comments, to put into our shock here to bring that even lower, as long as at full travel we don't have any frame contact with itself or tire contact with the frame at full travel. So I kind of want to check that now. Well, I've got a 29-inch wheel with a road tire on it right now, and the 26-inch wheel. Pay no mind to that right now. But in playing around with this, with all the air out of it, I learned that the stroke is actually not the entire shaft that's showing. We only have 50 mils of shock stroke, which is 7 mils less than what is on the RockShox Monarch, which will certainly affect the amount of travel that we have. And it will affect the amount of travel that we have by, if you will remember from your math class, to solve for X, to solve what our new travel will be, we know that we have 150 mils of travel with a 57 millimeter stroke shock. And that would be equal to the travel that we don't know for the 50 millimeter. So of course, rearrange to solve for X. 131.5 millimeters of travel with the Fox shock on. So we lose about 18 millimeters of travel, or in other words, 12%. I think that's livable, personally. So for zero money and this experiment and a shock that actually works and doesn't lose air all the time, but I think that's all right. Okay, next, I want to assess the damage in the linkage area at the bottom bracket area. Oh, something else I learned. There's a little window here to tell you if your seat is in far enough or not. So, suspicions confirmed. Every single one of these bearings is toast. They don't spin. They're disgusting. They're full of rust. Obviously, oh, this one does spin, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that wasn't doing any sort of favors. But these bearings, surprisingly, are actually bad as well. So I thought I might be able to get away with just doing these bearings at the lower linkage, and also these two at the chainstay linkage. These were the ones that were like the most obvious that they were like messed up. Seeing as I want this all apart to paint it anyway, and I'm hurt and I'm not really gonna be riding it anytime soon, it's like a good time to like really wake everything up. Which of course kind of puts me in a position where I'm like, do I run the wrong shock in there backwards, not upside down, because it doesn't actually fit? Or do I try and rebuild this and see if it can come back to life? Or do I try and get something else? It's kind of an annoying dilemma to be in, because I don't want to spend $600, $700, $800, $900, or $1,000 on a rear shock for a bike that we're just doing a bunch of experimenting on. So I guess we'll see. Okay, the next time that we play with this bike, I think we'll be painting it. I think so.